Hi, welcome to our channel of Ignouaudiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Child Care, CNCC, CNCC-1 Nutrition for the Community. Block 7, Quantity Cooking, Unit-30 Setting up the Food Service Establishment. 30.1 Introduction. In the previous unit, you learnt how Ramu planned the whole operation of setting up a canteen. You might have understood the importance of planning the operation in advance. Planning gives a sense of direction and helps to chalk out the course of action. It helps to visualize the questions such as what to do, when to do, how to do, and who will do, and also helps us to find the answers to these questions. The importance of identifying the resources and the fact that money is the prime resource has been emphasized in the previous unit. Ramu, while planning, had estimated the money that he would be requiring to start the canteen. You have also seen in the previous unit how Ramu was able to raise this amount. In this unit you will learn how to utilize the prime resource of money to procure other resources, i.e., equipment, raw food material, manpower, and also how to use them effectively. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to purchase the equipments necessary in a canteen. Select suitable methods of purchase for raw food material. Appropriately receive and store the food material. Ensure the effective production of the menu items. Adopt a suitable type of service and select and use the necessary manpower. 30.2 Ramu implements his plan. Once the funds became available and the plan was chalked out, spending the money as per the plan became relatively easy for Ramu. Let us see how Ramu got down to implement the plan. The first step that Ramu took in this regard was to get the contract from the school for running the canteen. For this he had to deposit a security deposit of Rs. 1,000. Ramu used his personal savings to pay this deposit. On signing the contract, Ramu was given 1 month's time to start the canteen, as the academic year of the school was starting after a month. Ramu used this period of 1 month to establish the canteen and to make the canteen operational. For this, first of all, he had to obtain all the necessary resources, i.e., equipments, food material, manpower. Let us learn how Ramu went about this task. First we will take about Ramu's experience in purchasing equipment. 30.2.1 Purchasing equipment. You may recall that while planning the project, Ramu had listed a number of equipments that would be necessary, both at the production and the service units. Chart 1 lists the equipment required. Chart 1 List of equipment required by Ramu. Look at the screen for table content. Armed with this list and the estimated cost of these items, Ramu ventured to purchase them. He set certain criteria for the purchase of these items, which included: the equipments should be suited for his need. They should be durable, sturdy and hard to wear and tear. They should be relatively suited for his requirement. Their capacity should be suited for his requirement. Their maintenance should be easy. They should be guaranteed by the manufacturers for a specific period, and their quality should be ensured with ISI certification. Keeping these criteria in mind, Ramu went to the wholesale market to select the necessary items. There he realized that items are sold only in bulk. Therefore, he bought the items required in bulk, such as plates, glasses, cups, etc., from there, ensuring that the prices were within the estimates. Next, Ramu went to the shops selling kitchen utensils. There he saw a variety of vessels and other common kitchen utensils. He realized different types of equipment were made of different metals. They were available in iron, brass, stainless steel, aluminium and alloy. Ramu compared these utensils and selected the utensils, which were hard to wear and easy to maintain and relatively cheaper. He had selected iron tawa and kadai, as they were to withstand the high temperature of cooking. Alloy dekchi was selected for slow heat cooking and aluminium vessels for preparation and storing. Then he went to purchase the gas range, hot case, icebox and wet grinder. He became confused with the different brands of these items available for sale. After some thinking, he decided to buy those which were comparatively cheap to be within his estimate, satisfy his requirements, gave a guarantee for a specified period of time and had to repair facilities just as you may recall Lakshmi did. Thus by wise selection and the right method of purchase, Ramu was able to get the necessary equipments within the estimated cost. Once the equipments were purchased, Ramu made arrangements for these equipment to be installed at the appropriate work areas. B checked the space available and did the electrical wiring necessary for it in installation and ensured that they were placed in such a way that they could be optimally used. The precautions are taken by Ramu while purchasing equipment have been summarized in Recap 8. Recap 8. Ramu, while planning to buy the equipments, took the following precautions. Surveyed similar institutions to determine the need. Checked the applicability of the equipment to his menu. Conducted a market survey to access the price and for purchase, he used a checklist or criteria to help him to decide the brand that was best suited for his job. The precautions taken by Ramu can serve as handy guidelines for purchasing equipment. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. Check your progress exercise. 1. 1. There are wide variety of equipment available in the market. What criteria would you lay down for the purchase of these items? List any 4 criteria. 2. Meeta is a housewife. She has to make lunch for 25 guests. Can you make a list of equipment she would need to cook and serve the lunch? After the purchase of equipment, the next major expenditure for Ramu was in the purchase of raw food materials. You may recall reading earlier in Unit 27 that purchasing raw food material is the very first step in food production and service operation. Once the raw food material is purchased, it should be received and stored properly. Also, a system needs to be involved, whereby the raw food items can be converted into finished food items good enough for sale. The next section documents Ram's experience in the food production and service operation. 30.2.2 Food production and service. The next major expenditure for Ramu was in the purchase of raw food material that would be needed to make the finished products. What methods of purchase did Ramu adopt so as to ensure maximum benefit? Let's consider. Ramu knew from his past experience that the purchasing method for non-perishable items like cereals, pulses, would be different from the purchasing method of perishable items such as vegetables, milk, etc. Why? Mainly because factors such as shelf life, storage space, and the use of items in the menu would determine the frequency and mode of purchase. Based on his past experience, Ramu first decided on a purchase schedule. He decided to buy the non-perishable item once in 10 days, as he did not want to buy these in large quantities due to lack of adequate storage space. Further, he did not want to take the risk of damage and pilferage of these items by not storing it properly. On the other hand, he decided to buy the perishable item only one day in advance because of the uncertainty of the school functioning. Schools have a large number of holidays and very often holidays are declared at short notice. Therefore, to ensure that he did not incur loss from deterioration of the perishables, he checked each day the need for perishables and bought them one day in advance. Having decided on the frequency of purchase, Ramu then decided about the mode or method of purchase. As the quantities required were not too large at any time, Ramu could not patronize the wholesale market. Therefore, he looked for alternative places from where he could get items of good quality at a relatively cheaper price. Like Lakshmi, he too was aware of the super bazaar and other cooperative stores, which sell commodities of good quality at relatively low prices. He, therefore, bought non-perishable items like rice, atta, maida, besan, pulses, sugar, oil, tea, coffee, condiments and spices from these outlets. These items were available in 1 packets, while rice, atta, oil, which were needed in larger quantities, were decided to be purchased in bigger packs as they would be more economical. Items which were not available in the super bazaar were bought from local shops, retail shops, after checking their quality and price in a few shops. The perishables, on the other hand, were brought from a local mandi and from a cooperative vegetable store. As Ramu used potato, onion and seasonal vegetables in substantial quantities in his menu, he procured them from the local mandi in bulk at a relatively cheaper rates, which helped him to keep his food cost within the budget. Items such as milk were bought from a supplier on the agreement that he would be supplying it every day at the canteen premises. Bakery items like bread, bun, patties, etc. were procured from a nearby bakery at a fixed price. Here you may see that Ramu utilized the different markets available, fair price shops or cooperative stores, mandi or local wholesale market, retailers like the local shops, and also specific suppliers like a bakery or the milk supply map. You may realize that to get the maximum out of the resources, one has to survey and choose the appropriate market. Appendix 2 at the end of the block presents a brief discussion on the different methods of purchase. Ramu further realized that he would not be able to do the purchase himself always, as the non-perishables were bought only once in 10 days and the quantity and the money involved was high. He purchased all these items himself. The head cook was entrusted with the purchase of vegetables from the mandi, as Ramu felt that the worker concerned would be more clear about the specification of the items required for making a particular product. Though no written specification was drawn out, as in the case of Lakshmi, for the purchase of the perishables, but by entrusting the job to a person who had the expertise and experience, selection of the right type of items was assured. A caution that was taken in this regard was that while purchasing perishables with less edible portions, a markup or allowance was to be made in the quantity purchased. You might have observed similar caution adopted by Lakshmi also. There you have seen that Ram, for purchasing the raw food material, chose the right market, ensured low price and good quality by using his knowledge and the cook's expertise. It may be observed here that it was good planning that helped Ramu to adopt a good purchasing policy and technique. Any commodity that is purchased should be checked for quality and quantity on receipt before storing. This measure is essential to ensure that the correct amount of commodities for which payment has been made have been received. Let us next learn how Ramu went about the receiving and storage function. Receiving. Ramu ensured that the correct amount of commodity for which he made the payment is received by purchasing most of the items from the cooperative stores, which are noted for correct weight and measures. Packets of 1 kg were easy to be checked, and other commodities in large packings also indicate the quantity on it. Perishable items purchased from the mandi by the cook were checked in the canteen against the voucher. The cash memos and receipts for payment are known as vouchers. Items like bread and milk were also checked for quality and quantity when delivered at the canteen. Checking, you learnt earlier, can be done at the premises of purchase as in the cooperative store or a shop, or also at me premises when they are delivered. The person who does the checking should, however, have adequate knowledge of the specifications and the quantities of the items ordered. Checking can be done by ascertaining the correct weight by balance or number by counting. Quality can be checked by the physical appearance of color, texture and signs of decay or damage. Non-perishables like spices and condiments and processed food like sauces should bear UG mark and FPO mark, which guarantees good quality. What other aspects one need to check at the point of receiving? The points discussed in Unit 27 under the section Receiving apply here as well. Read them carefully. Storing. All food items after checking are to be appropriately stored to prevent loss by deterioration, damage or pilferation. Items that need room temperature and those needing cooler temperature need to be fitted, sorted out and stored in the respective places. The commodities retain its quality only when they are stored in appropriate places. Non-perishables like cereals, pulses, condiments, oil and sugar are to be stored in AV11. Ventilated and clean storeroom. The storeroom ventilations should be covered with wire mesh to ensure safety from rodents and birds, but should allow free flow of air. Items that come in bunny bags or plastic packets, on opening should be transferred to airtight containers and placed neatly on racks or shelves. The bins or containers, which are used for keeping larger quantities of commodities, are to be placed at the bottom and others on top to facilitate easy handling. Items are to be placed on the shelves in such a manner that the older commodities are placed in front and the incoming items are placed behind. This system, you may recall, is called FIFO, first in first out system. A label on the bins will help to locate the items in the store easily. The storeroom is to be kept locked to ensure safety and opened only at specific time for issuing the commodities. Adequate measures are to be taken to keep the storeroom free from insects and rodents. Now let us see how Ramu managed his storeroom. You read earlier that the canteen premises had a small storeroom attached to the kitchen. This storeroom had a window covered with wire mesh and an exhaust fan, and two of its walls had built-in shelves. The storeroom, though small, provided adequate space for Ramu to store his commodities without much difficulty. Ramu, by systematically placing the commodities, was able to use this limited space effectively. He allotted separate space for cereal, pulses, oil and processed foods like sauces, and for detergents and cleaning agents. The perishables were bought on a daily basis. Vegetables like potato, onions, which did not need cooler temperature, were stored in THC dry storeroom. The refrigerator served as the cold storage. It was used to accommodate perishables like tomato, pea, green leafy vegetables and very often milk also. Curd, egg, and rice batter, which was used for making dosa and idli, and also leftover food, were kept in the refrigerator. Its use was restricted to the minimum and kept as a measure to prevent wastage of leftovers. Thus, by adopting proper and adequate method of storage, Ramu ensured that the raw food material purchased retained its quality and was also safe for consumption. Next, the stored items were to be issued each day to make the finished product. What system of issue did Ramu evolve? Let's consider. Issuing. Ramu referred to the menu to decide the weight of raw food material to be issued in a day. The quantity to be issued was determined by the number of portions of each items to be made on that day. Ramu, after running the canteen for some time, were able to predict quite accurately the number of each item that could be sold easily in a day. As estimated, he could sell about 75 to 120 plate lunches on a normal day. On days when kulcha and chole were given as plate lunch, the sale was about 125, whereas when bun, salad and cutlet were given in the plate lunch, the sales was only about 75 to 80. On an average, he could sell about 100 plate lunches every day as estimated by him earlier. Now after some time, he was able to assess the exact number and add about 5-10 extra portions to calculate the quantity of raw food that was necessary to make them. He determined the quantity of each ingredient required for each item, taking into consideration the non-edible portions, especially for the perishable items. Taking all these factors into consideration, he made a list of the ingredients required and issued them from the store. The perishables, if kept in the fridge, were also issued out in the same way, and other perishable items which came on the same day were checked against the list of ingredients required. To have a control over the issue of the items, he used to do this work himself. The items were issued to the head cook in the morning itself. Normally, no items were issued after this as a precaution against pilferage and to have a systematic control of the issue. As the issue was made from the store of predetermined quantities, the quantities were recorded in a register. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. Check your progress exercise. 2. 1. For buying raw food items, can you suggest a good purchase policy? 2. Mr. Sharma has opened a dhaba. He is planning to purchase vegetables from the local mandi. What point should he keep in mind while deciding on the quantity to be purchased? 3. Sharma is in charge of receiving food items in the storeroom. He received rice, pulse, and spices in the morning. How should he check these items to ensure quality? Product. Comment. 4. In the storeroom, how would you arrange the food items so as to ensure that older items get used first? So far you have learnt how Ramu purchased, received, checked, stored and issued the raw food material in his unit. You will now see how Ramu evolved a system by which he was able to convert the raw material to finished food products good enough for sales. Food preparation. Ramu had to ensure good quality of food in the form of safe, wholesome menu items which was consistent in size and taste. To ensure this, Ramu, like Lakshmi, used standardized recipes to prepare the menu items. What is a standardized recipe? Remember, we read about it in Unit 27. A recipe which gives consistently the same results every time it is used is termed a standardized recipe. How did the use of a standardized recipe help Ramu? Let's consider. The standardized recipes gave Ramu the necessary information regarding the quantities of raw materials required to be purchased and issued on a particular day. It gave him the details as to how to make the product, which helped him to guide the cook in the making of various items. Further, whenever the cook was absent, Ramu was able to get the work done through his assistant by taking tips from the recipes wherever necessary. The standardized recipes also helped Ramu in pre-costing the menu. You may recall that Ramu had signed a contract with the school management which specified a definite quantity and quality for the items. To calculate the rates of these items, he used the standardized recipes. Standardized recipe was also useful in formulating the menu. What was the menu decided by Ramu? You may recollect that Ramu had planned to serve 1 plate lunch and 3 snacks every day as indicated in Chart 2. Chart 2. A sample of the cycle menu prepared by Ramu. Look at the screen for table content. The menu adopted for the plate lunch, you notice, was such that it was nutritionally adequate as it contained a cereal, a pulse and vegetable or curd variety in the plate. Lunches was introduced by giving different types of plate lunches, i.e., North Indian kulcha chole, salad, South Indian uttapam/dosa/sambar and chutney, and continental bun, cutlet and salad. Variety was further brought about by using different types of preparations. Similarly, it may be observed from the menu for snacks that here again variety had been brought about by use of different combinations of ingredients and different types of preparations. Take the example of vada. Variety has been brought about by serving it as plain vada, sambar vada and dahi vada. The methods of cooking used were deep fat frying, shallow frying and steam cooking. Further, Ramu used the 5-day menu i.e., the cycle menu to bring about variety in a week. He rotated the menu so that the same items were served on a particular day in a week. This type of menu was advantageous than having a number of items in the menu every day, as the latter would not facilitate an easy prediction of the portions to be prepared. When the choice was narrowed down to a few, a more accurate prediction was possible. The less number of choices in a day was compensated by Ramu by giving more variety in the week. Other than introducing variety in meals, how did the use of cycle menu help Ramu? Can you suggest? Let's learn about it. The menu helped Ramu to incorporate the leftover items in the next day's menu to avoid any wastage. For example, bread which was not consumed for sandwiches was used for bread roll in the next day. Similarly, vada was used for dahi vada and cutlet was used for hamburger the next day. The cycle menu helped Ramu to organize the purchase well in advance. He was able to pre-plan and delegate the work better, thus helping the use of the workforce to the maximum. It also helped him to standardize the recipes further as they were repeated every week, thereby getting the product more consistent in quantity and quality. The cycle menu helped Ramu in organizing a smooth systematic working in the kitchen. How? The following discussion will help understand this aspect. The cycle menu, once planned with care, its execution becomes smooth and the adoption of it daily becomes a matter of routine and gives enough time to a manager to devote to other matters. It also brings about a smooth systematic working in the kitchen. The cycle menu helped Ramu to organize the work in the kitchen. He ensured that the snacks were ready by 9:30 am and the plate lunch by 10:30 am every day. The shacks were to be ready by 9:30 am as staff members visited the canteen for snacks and hot beverages in their free periods. The plate lunch was to be ready by 10:30 am as the lunch time in the school was to start by 10:45 am. Keeping these demands in mind, he distributed the work to his labor. First, he planned that some operations like chopping, masala grinding could be done the previous day to shorten the preparation time on the cooking day. While organizing the cooking time, the time taken for bulk cooking was also taken into consideration, and measures like soaking the pulses the previous day and pressure cooking were adopted to reduce the cooking time. Ramu assigned the work to each worker in such a manner that all the activities were aimed at producing the desired menu items in a specific period of time. This was achieved by formulating a timetable or work schedule which specified the work and the time in which it was to be completed. A work or production schedule can be best explained by using an example. Let us see how Ramu executed the production of the menu on day 1. The menu had parantha and bundi raita as plate lunch, and the 3 snacks were samosa, poha and sandwiches. The workers were to report for work at 7:30 am. How the work for the preparation of the menu items was assigned may be seen from the work schedule given in chart 3. In the work schedule, the time of work is divided into half-an-hour units and the work expected to be completed by each worker is specified in it. Chart 3. Work schedule. Look at the screen for table content. If you study the work schedule carefully, you will notice a logical sequence of flow of activities, e.g., collection, pre-preparation and preparation. Even though the 3 activities may be done by 3 different people, you may note that before the peak time of service most of the workers were assigned preparation jobs, and during the service time the cook and bearer 3 were available for preparation and others were involved in service. Bearer 3 was available for service for most of the time to serve beverages and snacks. After the lunchtime, their time was utilized for preparations for the next day, which is in making gulab jamun, grinding batter for idli and preparation of chutney. You would have noticed how working out a work schedule helped Ramu plan the work systematically in the kitchen. By adopting this work schedule, he was able to assign specific jobs to each person and also ensure that the work was done simultaneously so that the products were ready at the specified time. Such work schedule ensures that each worker has a specific job to do. 2. Their time is utilized properly. 3. Jobs are not duplicated. 4. There is no ambiguity or uncertainty in the allocation of work and work is distributed evenly. And there is a better performance as each worker has been assigned certain responsibilities. Once the food items are ready, the service operation begins. In other terms, the food products that are produced have to reach the customer well, both in terms of time and quality. How did Ramu plan his service operation? The following discussion documents Ramu's experience in the sale of the food item service. To ensure that the food products reach the customers well, both in terms of time and quality, Ramu adopted certain procedures. First and foremost, the menu for the day and the prices of each item was put up on a board which was placed centrally in the canteen. Every customer who wanted to buy any item from the canteen referred the board and made their choices. They then bought the coupons for the required items from Ramu, who kept the responsibility of collecting the cash with himself. Each item had a different colored coupon. These coupons were taken to the counter, where the assistant cook delivered the items across the counter against the coupons. The students were to collect the food items and take the available seating space and eat their food. One bearer was assigned to take orders from the staff members and serve them at the tables provided for them. 2 bearers were responsible for collecting the used cutlery and crockery and do the washing. Ramu assigned 2 people to make paranthas and beverages whenever there was a demand. So you notice Ramu adopted the coupon system for food service. The coupon system ensured receipt of cash for the items sold. Different colored coupons ensured proper accounting of sale and counter checking the sales with the item put for sale. Ramu also extended credit system to the staff, who were regularly taking meals or snacks from the canteen. He noted down the date and the items sold to such staff members every day, and gave the account and collected the cash either weekly or monthly as agreed. Oral orders he got countersigned in his account book to avoid any confusion at the time of making the payment. From the discussion above, you learnt about one of the most simple method of service, i.e., counter service, which is suited for a canteen. This system is suitable where the labor force is less and the price has to be kept in a particular range, which restricts the engagement of additional labor force. A counter service also guarantees more turnover in a short period of time, as most of the food items are ready to be served. As the lunch hour in the school was only for about 45 minutes, Ranu had to adopt this type of service to cater to all the customers within this limited time. In this section, we learnt about the counter service system of food service. A brief review of few other food service systems is given in Appendix 3. You may have noted that Ramu was responsible for issuing items from the store, supervising the work of the employees and checking the quality of food produced. He was also responsible for taking any decision in the change of work schedule, if circumstances so demanded. He was also to do cash collection and ensure smooth service in the canteen. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. Check your progress exercise 3. Fill in the blanks. A blank gives information regarding how to make a product. B. Blank helps introduce variety in meals and helps organize work in the kitchen. C. A timetable which specifies the work and the time in which it is to be completed is referred to as a blank. D. Blank is the focal point of all activities in a food service establishment. 2. Plan a work schedule for a menu of parantha paneer kofta curry. 3. What is the counter system of food service? Discuss briefly. In the above section, you learnt how Ramu managed efficiently the material resource available with him. He was able to do so with the cooperation of high employees and by utilizing his skills in managing and directing them properly. He could make his operations successful with the help of his dedicated employees and was able to get the best from them as he treated them with due care and consideration. In the next section you will learn how Ramu managed the workers properly and got the best out of them. Ramu believed in the philosophy that human resource is the most important asset in an organization. This approach he had learnt and experienced during his working tenure in the school hostel, where the mess superintendent allowed him to develop and gave him responsibilities, which instilled in him the confidence to run a canteen on his own. A wise selection, training and right motivation helped him to get the maximum output from his employees. Let us learn from Ramu's experience. 30.2.3 Recruiting manpower. When Ramu planned his manpower, you read in the last unit, he decided to appoint a full-time cook and one assistant cook and 3 bearers. On what basis he selected these workers? While selecting the workers, Ramu ensured that they had the appropriate skill and aptitude. He wanted the cook to have adequate experience. So the next task for him was how to find a suitable candidate. One way would have been to advertise the job. But in the case of Ramu, he knew that for this purpose he could depend on his uncle who would recommend the best suited person for the job. Accordingly, Ramu's uncle recommended one of the workers in the hostel, who was working on a temporary basis. As he was a temporary hand in the school hostel and had about 5 years' experience in the kitchen, Ramu considered him as the most suited person to be initiated in the canteen. The person also welcomed the offer as this was more of a permanent nature than his job in the school hostel, and the emoluments offered by Ramu were also better than that he was getting. Next, Ramu selected a raw hand who had an aptitude for cooking as the assistant cook. This person was a relative of one of the workers in the school hostel and was in search of a job. For bearers, Ramu selected 3 young boys in the age group of 16 to 18. Who were in search of a job for their livelihood. Here also Ramu was careful to select only boys who were recommended by persons known to him. These boys were mostly relatives of the workers in the school hostel. Further, Ramu was also sure that in case any one of these workers quit their job, he could fall back on his uncle to recommend people to fill up any extended absence by any employee or frequent turnover. Turnover here means people leaving the institution to seek other jobs. Before we proceed further, let us once again recollect the criteria adopted by Ramu in selecting manpower. Recap. 9 lists the criteria. These criteria can be UP/TLAS handy. Guidelines in selecting manpower. Recap. 9. The criteria to be adopted in selecting the manpower include: the worker should be skilled and should have some experience. Ramu selected one skilled person as the cook and all others were raw hands. He took this decision as he felt that only the cook needed some experience. The others could be trained according to the job requirement. The workers should have an aptitude for the type of work they are selected, or this Ramu found out by interviewing the workers at the time of appointment, i.e., found out by putting a few questions to them regarding their eagerness to take up the job. The workers should have good recommendations, preferably they should be recommended by known people, to ensure their loyalty and trustworthiness. Having selected the employees, Ramu negotiated the wages with them. Let us see how he fixed their wages. Remunerations. Based on the skills and work experience, the head cook was offered Rs. 1,000 per month, the assistant cook Rs. 750 per month, and the bearer cum utility workers Rs. 300 per month each. This amount offered was a consolidated amount. Ramu explained to them that though the canteen would be operational for only about 10 months in a year, they would be paid salary for the full 12 months of the year. During the vacation time when the canteen would not be working, they were expected to be available. If any catering projects become available, other than wages, they were also offered free meals on all working days of the canteen. In addition, an apron, headgear, dusters, soaps and some medical care also would be given. All the school holidays were holidays for them except on days when they called to cater to special functions in the schools. However, accommodation was not provided to them as the school authorities did not allow anybody to stay in their premises. Workers' productivity. Ramu was able to instill loyalty and commitment in the workers. As all the workers were recommended by persons known to him, they were able to perform well, as Ramu clearly defined every job by drawing up a description for each of them. As there was clear-cut instruction to each of them as to the job they had to do, they worked efficiently. The work schedule provided to them also helped them to give the best out of them and enable them to work as a team. The work schedule took into consideration the job to be done and the time taken to do the job, thus providing them a direction to do the work well. Ramu also delegated some responsibilities to the head cook and the assistant cook, which helped them to develop their potentials and also to motivate them to work well. Ramu's able guidance and motivation and adequate supervision provided a conducive environment, which kept the worker happy, leading to satisfaction in their work, which in turn reflected in high productivity. From our discussion above, it is evident that Ramu managed the workers properly and got the best out of them. You would be surprised to learn that the workers were able to function well also because Ramu had planned and established a good workplace. How does a good workplace influence the working of the employees? The workplace should be conducive to efficient working. In the EAE of Ramu's canteen, we learned that the canteen had a kitchen, a pantry and a store. A schematic representation of Ramu's canteen is given in Figure 30.1. Figure 30.1. Layout of the canteen. Look at the screen for table content. As can be seen in the figure, the kitchen had a cooking center and work counters. The gas burners were installed at the cooking center. The wet grinder was installed in a corner of the kitchen. The kitchen had a pot and pan washing area and a sink. The store was next to the kitchen and had inbuilt shelves to keep the non-perishables. Now coming to the pantry had counters for service and storing cooked food. Item. The hot case was on the counter and the ice box was under it. The fridge was installed in one corner of the pantry. It also had a sink to wash the cutlery and crockery, and a shelf above it to store it. There was adequate aisle space between the kitchen and the pantry to allow free flow, which enabled the delivery of short order items quickly. The entrance to the canteen was through a lobby, where Ramu placed a table to elder coupons and also provided some seating place to the teaching staff. The canteen did not provide seating arrangements to the students. They were expected to collect the items from the counter and sit on stone benches or in the lawns. The canteen, though small, was compact and provided the essentials of a kitchen and a service area. Thus you see that the workplace also contributed to the efficient working of the employees. You would have observed that when Ramu planned entire work schedule, it was with an objective to utilize the available time effectively. The arrangement of the workplace and the delivery system adopted made the best of the time available. Ramu was able to cater to a large number of people within a short period of the lunch break by adopting these methods. Here you see an effective management of time. In this unit you have learnt how Ramu put into action the plans in the use of resources, money, material, manpower, workplace and time. You may also recollect how Lakshmi too managed these resources in the previous unit. Compare the two and see the similarities if any. Check your progress exercise. 4. 1. What steps should one take to ensure that the workers are working happily? 2. How does the workplace contribute to the efficient working of the employees? Comment. 30.3. Learning from Ramu's experience. In this unit you learned how Ramu utilized the money to procure each of his resources. He put into action his plan by first purchasing the essential equipments and the ought to obtain the necessary raw food material by adopting proper and systematic method of purchase, receipt and storage. The raw materials were then made into finished products. By adopting a production schedule, the menu items were appropriately served to all customers by adoption of counter service system, most suitable in a canteen. Ramu was able to produce and serve food in time because he was assisted by efficient workers who were good at their job because they had the skill and right direction. Here you see how Ramu was able to put his plans into action effectively. 30.4. Glossary. Credit system, a system in which one can use a service/good now and can pay for it at a later date. Peak time, it refers to the rush time. Turnover, when people leave one place of work to seek other job, it is referred to as turnover. Voucher, it is a documentary evidence of a transaction that took place between the business and the other party. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.